So let's move on with the topic. So as you've seen, it's Google Ad Advanced. So advanced, I call it advanced because of course I'm referring to certain terms and certain KPI that you need to know a little bit. So I would estimate that 1 year or 2 years experience is required, so you are comfortable with the concept. So the topic of today is benefits of using automation in Google Ads. So I want to talk about this topic. It is not meant to be a tutorial on how to set up automation in Google Ads. Neither I'm going to talk about what's under the hood of automation. You have some great presentation on YouTube, and also in the Malt Academy, there was a presentation about machine learning, which was really interesting and on which I really learned a lot. But here, this idea of presentation, talking about the benefits, came from the fact that, I mean, in the last couple of years, I've been auditing a lot of Google Ads accounts, and I was always surprised to see that how little customers were using automation and how they were still doing things manually. And I think that as a freelancer, since you have limited capacity, you want to focus on the big picture and let Google optimize some things for you. So that's why I think it's kind of important. And the presentation today is really to show you what the advantages are of automation. We'll also go through a little bit of history of how automation started at Google, also when I was working there. And we'll finish also with a business case that hopefully will show you that it's worth testing automation, and hopefully you will try it as well. So, I'm Henri Guénon. I'm originally from France. I'm currently working as performance marketing manager at Schur GmbH. It's a B2B software based in Munich, and I'm responsible there for the PPC channel, but also tracking. So on the website and inside our software. I'm also an active freelancer on Malt since a couple of months, and I really enjoy the platform. And when I have time, I'm also giving some help to nonprofit organizations through the website called WebAssos. And basically, I'm helping nonprofit to run their Google Ads campaign, Google Ads grant. So if you're part of Google Ads grants, you can get some free support from us. So that's it for me. The table of content. So first, I'm going to give you a definition of what automation is from the Google side. Then we'll talk about the rise of automation in Google Ads, how it started. Then we'll talk about why automations, some obvious benefits of using it, what you need to have in place, because of course it's not open to all advertisers and all accounts. There are certain things you need to have in place before that. And then we'll move on to the business case, where we'll see a fully automated campaign format, which is the DSA campaign, so dynamic search ads, versus a normal keyword static campaign. And then, of course, we'll leave it to open questions. So if you have any questions, if you want to challenge my position, because I'm very pro automation, but of course, maybe you have some different experience that you want to share, and that's perfectly welcome. So the background. So we'll start with the definition from Google, because I think it's interesting. And that's something I took from the support from Google. How does automation work? Google Ads smart bidding and smart creative solution use machine learning that analyze millions of signals in real time to show the right message to the right customer in the moments that matters. Okay, so that's the like overall definition from Google. What it means behind, and you understood, is that the customer journey today has become so complex. You know, you go from one channel to another, if you just stay in the Google world, so it's going to be YouTube, it's going to be SEO, it's going to be Google Ads. So it's not a straightforward path to conversion. And if you add up to this the layer of different devices, so mobile, tablet, desktop, it's becoming real complex to do things manually, especially when it comes to bidding. So that's why Google talks mainly, when we talk about automation, we talk mainly about smart bidding. So smart bidding would be, target, instead of doing manual CPC, you're going to target a certain cost per acquisition, or you're going to target a certain return on ad spend. That's the ROI's target. You can target impression share or maximize conversion, this kind of settings. So you're moving away from the real micro level of managing bids down to the overall goal of your campaign. Smart creative, I will talk more in detail about it, what smart creative is. But yeah, that's the whole idea. So putting some artificial intelligence to do things automatically rather than doing it manually. In automation, you could as well include Google Ads scripts. And I would also include the recommendation, which are automated feature as well from Google Ads. But here we only stick to those two features, which are smart bidding and smart creative. Now, I want to talk about the rise of automation tools in Google Ads, because people often think that those features are here since very recently, but they've been here since quite a long time. And when I joined in 2003, 2004, there was already some automated technology behind it. If you take, for example, the ad rank system, which before quality score was calculated with CTR versus CPC, this was already an automated feature, because if you take the main competitor of that time, which was Overture, which was later bought by Yahoo and then disappeared, they had a very straightforward ranking system. You could actually bid on your keyword and see exactly where you were standing and how much your competitor were bidding. And that was not the case of Google. Google had always an automated system, and you could not really see what your competitors were doing. You had no access to their CTR and of course not their max CPC. So that was already in place. So then after, of course, the introduction of quality score, which came later, so CTR was replaced by quality score. So this is not automation, but I thought it was important to mention. Also, I want to talk about the landscape at that time. 2004, I was in France working for Google France, and it was really the rise of e-commerce websites. Amazon was really booming, eBay also, and all those big companies who had very large campaign, they were really starting to spend a lot of money on Google Ads. They were all searching for some way to automate. And Google was not providing any solution for that. At that time, it was just pure manual CPC. So there were some third-party companies that started to create their own solutions. So in France, I can talk about, for example, eSearch Vision, which was created in 2004. In the US, you had Efficient Frontier, which was later integrated into Adobe. And I have to admit that Google was quite curious about those companies. And I remember, organizing some meeting between Google and eSearch Vision in France. And it was, there was a lot of interest and a lot of attraction. Especially because those companies were also attracting a big customer of Google. But then it only, automated bidding only came very much later. So in 2008, we have the release of Conversion Optimizer. So Conversion Optimizer is like the first release in terms of bid automation from Google. And I have to admit, it didn't really work well. I mean, you needed a lot of conversion on your campaign to make it work. So it started with 300 conversion, and then the threshold was lowered to 200. And the problem was that your campaign had to be very stable in order to meet this target. And it was still very much behind a third-party solution. Then, okay, Enhanced CPC was launched in 2010. And for this one, I have to admit that it was much better, and Enhanced CPC is still there. And I would still advise you to use it if you don't want to move to automated bidding. It's still the best way, I think, to do manual bidding. 2011, dynamic search ads. So here, I think we're starting really in the real stuff from automation, because dynamic search ad, you have a fully automated campaign. So you can add, it's very quick to create your campaign, and you take the pages that are indexed on Google or from a feed, and you have almost a fully automated ad format, which is taking text, headlines from your page and some description line that you've written on your site. So I was actually quite surprised because I only use it a bit later, but it's actually quite old DSA campaign. And we'll see how to create a DSA campaign later on during the business case. 2016, smart bidding. So here, I think from my personal opinion, that's the moment when it kind of made secondary to use third-party solution, because smart bidding from Google was then becoming really good in terms of CPA and return on ad spend. And any kind of third-party, which of course is some added money to pay, is for me kind of not the end, but they had to offer something else than just bid management. And that's what they do at the moment. If you take like companies like Kenshu or Marine Software, they all move to some kind of attribution platform, and they're not only doing smart bidding, because now it's kind of the field of Google. 2018, and I will end for the history, is responsive search ads. So responsive search ad is a fully automated ad format. You can enter 15 description, 15 headlines for description, and Google will create the best ad format for you based on every search query that is being entered. So that's the fully automated ad format that you should test actually on all of your search campaign together with your normal ads. I don't know if there are some questions, because I feel I have said a lot so far.
The audience is quiet so far, but feel free to ask questions either in the chat or in the Q&A box.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move on. So why automation? So I really like this slide. It's very straightforward, but for me, that's the whole point of automation. If you ever taken a plane, a long-haul flight to New York, you will log into the cockpit, and you will see on the left that the pilots are running through a list of points. And for me, that's, if you compare it with Google Ads Management, it's really the phase when you're auditing your an account. So you're going to go through a lot of checkpoints, and that's what I do also with my clients. You're going to check the budget. You're going to check the keywords, the match type of the keywords. You're going to check the negative. You're going to check the site links. So there are a whole lot of things that you have to go through before the flight. Then after, when the plane starts to go away to the takeaway path, you're preparing your flight, you know, you're just trying to set up some stuff. And that could be exactly seen as how you set up your campaign. So you're going to set up your campaign structure, your ad group, your keywords. You're going to make a lot of verification and so on. And when the planes take off, and that's should be seen as the time when you launch your campaign, you got to be really careful at that time, because something might go wrong and you really have to be on alert. Check, for example, if some keywords are not burning all your budget, or if you don't have any mistakes in your landing page. So you really have to be careful at that time. And I would advise in this critical phase to still do a lot of things manually. But once you've reached your cruising altitude, like the pilot here on the right, I wouldn't say you can lay back and enjoy the flight, but actually you can still relax a little bit, especially if you have turned some automation. You're not going to focus anymore on the very micro level. Now you're more into optimization mode. So it doesn't mean that you're not doing anything, of course. You still need to check your negative. You still need to check if you have the right CPA target, and do things like that. But it's not like you need to really be into it. So that's the whole idea behind it. So now you probably understand some of the benefits. So the obvious benefits, you're going to have less tedious tasks, and you're going to be more focused on the overall picture. So as I said, instead of when you're using automation and talking about bid strategy in particular, you're not going to focus on the micro level. You're not going to logging into your account every single day to change the bids, especially if you're managing 10,000 keywords, which happens if you're a retailer. But you're rather going to focus on the big picture and your main target. Another big advantage is that you're going to be able to build campaign much faster. I mean, a DSA campaign, so dynamic search ad, will only take you about 10 minutes, and we'll go through some of the settings, but that's really, of course, you can make it more complex by using some feed, but if you want to take the simple format of DSA, it will take you just 10 minutes. My experience as well is that you get better results. If you take bid management, it's still more efficient than manual bidding. And if you give it some time, you can actually see that you're hitting exactly the target that you've entered into the system. But for this, and I can admit that sometimes it doesn't work, there are some prerequisites, of course, but if you have enough conversion data, there's no reason that you should not hit your target. And also a last point that we tend to forget is that it's much more secure. I mean, I still remember my ex-boss in another company, you know, he was managing bids manually, and one day, instead of entering €5 per click, he entered €50 per click. But he only realized it the next day, and when the campaign had overspent €6,000. This kind of thing will not happen with automatic bidding, because you're giving the system some target. Of course, you can put a maximum CPC and your CPA target. It's not like you're completely on a free ride. Huh? If, for example, if you put a €50 target CPA, you will say, I don't want to bid higher than €10. So it's kind of your security. And yeah, big mistake will not happen that could happen when you're doing things manually. So what are the prerequisites? So for me, there are three main ones. The very first thing, before you start automation, you have to track conversion. And that's very important. And what I mean by conversion is everything that is meaningful for your business. So if you're a plumber, of course, you're going to track click to call on your ad or also on your website. You can use Google Ads conversion tracking. You can import some Google Analytics goal back into your account. Also, you don't even have to use either conversion tracking or Google Analytics goal. You can also use offline conversion and pull it back into Google Ads, and then use your automated bidding based on those offline conversions. That's something people don't really know, but that's definitely possible. Another important thing is that you have to give it some time. At the beginning, as I said, you can start with manual bidding or impression share. But then once you get enough data, then you can move to automatic. But maybe at first it's better to start with manual, enhance CPC, of course. Yeah, so when you have enough data, you can move on to CPO or return on ad spend. I would avoid the maximize conversion because my experience with it is that it tends to burn your budget, trying to get a lot of conversion, and but at the end you end up spending a lot of money and not always getting the amount of conversion that you want. So that's kind of the thing I would be cautious with. And the last thing, you need to give it some time. And I would say 4 weeks of data is good to get some learnings. Often I see that people are trying automation at a very little level on certain campaigns, but they just stopped after one week or 2 weeks, but you have to give it time. And the last thing, as I said, you should not stop optimizing your campaign. It's not like, it's the automatic pilot. You still need to check your negative. You still need to add some headline if you're using responsive search ads. You still need to, look at ad group performance and eventually pause some ad groups if they're not performing well. That's the job you still need to be doing. So now, maybe I can take some questions if there are some before we move on to the business case.
Still a very quiet audience, but again, feel free to ask questions. Or,
if there are some things that are not clear, because I'm using a lot. Sometimes I don't realize I'm using a lot of concepts that are relevant to Google Ads. But if anything is unclear, maybe I can clarify.
Looks good so far from the audience side.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now you're saying, okay.
Actually, just now a question came in. Do you have data on how much optimization you can have?
Can you specify what you mean by how much optimization? You mean how much? I don't really understand the question.
There was one clarification saying in average. Do you have data on how much optimization you can have in average?
Yeah, so actually it's good that I have this question because I'm going to move on to the business case, and the business case is comparing a normal keyword campaign versus a fully automated campaign, a DSA campaign. And those two campaigns are actually running in parallel. And then, we can compare how like a fully automated campaign perform versus a static campaign. So I think, we'll probably, and now I will take the question afterwards. So that's the setting you will do with your DSA campaign. And as I mentioned, it will only take you 10 minutes. So these are the settings from my own website. The results of this business case are actually taken from a client of mine. Of course, I'm not going to give you any numbers, conversion numbers, but you'll get the percentage, which is enough. So just for the setting, I'm talking about, this is my website, but when we move on to the result, it's the real client. So here you just, in the setup, you just enter your domain. You just enter your targeting source. So here you will say, I want to use the pages that are indexed by Google. So instead of entering your landing page, you will say, I want to all the pages of my website which are indexed by Google. Then this is at your ad group level. Your ad group level, you will say, okay, I want to, from all the pages that are indexed, I want all the page with /DE. Of course, you can add some negative at target, the same way as you add negative keyword. So here, I don't want all I don't want my page that talks about terms and conditions to target in my campaign. So I will exclude it from the ad group. And then I have my ad. So again, at the ad group level, where I have a fully automated headline, display, URL, which again are taken from pages that are indexed by Google, and then I can enter my static description into the ad group. And the results are here. So these are real numbers. So this is not my website. This is a real client. And what you see here is at the start. So when I started the DSC campaign versus the normal campaign, as I said, they are running in parallel. And you can see that at the very beginning, the fully automated campaign doesn't have enough data to run smoothly or to optimize things. So you will see that the CTR is lower. The cost per conversion is also higher. And the conversion rate is about half of the keyword campaign. But after 1 month of data, what is interesting is that the DSA campaigns start to align with the normal keyword. And I looked at the data also very recently. So again, 1 month later, and the performance of the DSA campaign has even outreached the performance of the normal campaign. So here you can see a very clear improvement. So maybe to go back to the question, it's, let's say, yeah, that's the kind of improvement you can expect if you still continue on optimizing. Google will find the best conversion rate for your campaign. It will try to bring as much conversion as possible for every ad auction, and it's doing it dynamically, and you don't have to worry about all those things on your side. Last thing that I want to mention is that you can still do all this, manually. You can still bid on device. You can still do ad scheduling. You can still do many things manually. But at the end, I think, especially when you're dealing with lots of keywords and a lot of data, at the end, it will always make more sense to use Google technology. And yeah. So that's my view on it, and we can certainly discuss if you have ideas about that, yeah, on your side, or feedback to share. Q&A. So I have a question. So I will go through the open question. Do you believe using audience is a thing of the past, not recommended? No, audience is great to use, and it will actually help you for your auto bidding. So there are two advantages, I think, using audience. Is that it's going to enable you to segment your data at your campaign. So it's interesting for you to see the report and segment by different audience. And it will also help the automation system to play with those audience. So you can use audience, and Google is also advising you to use audience in your campaign, because it's just helping the system. How do you split test keyword versus DSA and run them at the same time? So yes, good question as well. For me, I use DSA as a backup because I believe that when you use keywords, especially if you have thousands of pages on your site, it's very hard actually to cover all area and to make sure that you haven't forgotten any keywords. I mean, we're human, and all this decision of finding keywords. So even if today with the broad match system, Google is kind of broad in finding new relevant search query for you. Even with that system in place, it's very hard to cover all areas, and that's where DSA campaign comes in. It's kind of a backup of your keyword campaign, and that's the way I see it. I don't think it overlaps. Sometimes it does overlap, but it's rather a backup. And again, you won't have, if you have both running at the same time, DSA and keyword campaign, you will not be displayed twice, of course, because Google is always, will always display the best performing ads. Yeah. Are there any other questions? So chat.
There was a question, is there a minimum budget for using smart bidding and smart creative?
No, there's no minimum budget. I mean, for Google, you can enter the budget you want, but by experience, you need to have a certain budget for sure. It always depends also on what is your average CPC, because I could tell you €100, but if in 10 clicks you're reaching the €100, it's not going to bring you any further. But I would say you need to have some feelings about traffic, about conversion. In terms of minimum numbers, I would say at least 50 conversion per month. That's my experience. So if you are anywhere below 30 conversion per month, I would still advise to use manual CPC. On my personal website, for example, I don't have that minimum threshold, and I found that using automation just doesn't work. So I just prefer bidding, manually on certain keywords that are strategic for me. And yeah, but you certainly need some traffic and some conversion data. Conversion data is very important as well. Do you have to on how many? For smart creative, I mean, smart creative, you don't even have to worry about the budget. The thing is, if you have little budget and if you have little traffic, it's going to work, but it's just going to take longer for Google to find learnings. That's the drawback. I mean, the more budget you have, the more traffic you have, the faster the system will be smart and in terms of optimization. And the more data you have, the more you're going to really hit your target in terms of target CPA or return on ad spend. Once you start, having not enough budget or not having enough data, it could work, but it's just going to take much longer for the system to get some learning. It's all about historical data and getting learning from the past, from past history. So that's the whole thing about automation, actually. Any other question? No.
I think that's all for now. There's a thanks from the audience.
Okay, cool. I hope it was clear.
I hope so too. I think it's good to continue, and then if questions come up, we will address them. They say yes, very clear. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much for attending. Smart creative, the definition. Smart creative, yes. So if you take responsive search ads, for example, these are ads. Instead of writing static creative, you're gonna enter into the system 15 headlines, and you can add up to 4 description. So what the system will do, it's gonna try to test every kind of combinations of headline and description. So you have to be careful also to what you're putting. You can also say, I want this headline to be in position 1. So for example, if your headline is official website, you want this to be in position 1 and maybe not in position 3, because also the position 3 in the ad will be, sometimes it's not being displayed, especially on mobile. So that's the whole idea. You put all your description, all your headlines, and then Google will try to find the best ad format for every search query. And based on that, yeah, the system tries to find some models of what is the best converting ad. It's the same also when you create a DSA campaign. When you create a DSA campaign, it's taking some snippet from your landing page and putting it into the ad, and it will analyze also what is the best converting headlines. I mean, on this side, it's pretty much similar to SEO. You know, finding the best snippet that will drive most of the clicks. And yeah, that's the same thing. So it's this whole kind of automation of the ads that yeah, are part of the smart creative. Cool.
A person who put the question says thanks.
Okay. Thanks.
And we still see the screen DSA versus keyword campaigns results.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I have to say thank you.
All right. We are at the questions part.
Yeah. Question.
So
yeah.
if you have more questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah.
We are done quite fast, but yeah, now is the time to ask all the questions you might have. I have a look at the question and answer box. Yeah, but it looks like it has been all very clear. Oh, there is popping something up. Did you do a specific Google training about more info about algorithm?
Can you say it again?
Did you do a specific Google training about more info about algorithm?
No, I actually don't know about artificial intelligence from Google. I actually learned a lot with the Malt Academy from, I think, Timothée, who talked about machine learning, using machine learning for the search engine. And I found it really interesting. I realized that they're also using some technology coming from Google. And for me, it was very informative because I didn't know anything about that. And yeah, I'm not an engineer, and I only know automation from the marketing side and the user side. But that's what I found very interesting in the Malt Academy. And I would invite you as well to look at it because it was very interesting. Of course, it's in French, but I'm sure on YouTube you find a lot of information about how machine learning works. Of course, if you look at the official documentation from Google, they will not tell you a lot. The same thing as they will not tell you exactly how the quality score is being calculated. This is part of the Google magic. yeah, they want to keep the secret, of course, and yeah, it's not, yeah, it's very hard to have very precise information about those things.